Hi, my name is Scott Omer, and I'm going to be doing a talk on zebra mussels. We're going to go over the reasons they're not good for us, and identifying them, and things we can do to prevent them from affecting our lakes and streams throughout the United States. Zebra mussel is a very small-looking, like clam that started in southern Europe, and through the years has finally got over onto the U.S. soil, and and they've been carried over here by using boats and birds and the fish, and they're multiplying, and they're starting to affect our fish and bird populations. So we're going to cover some ways to identify them and hopefully control them and get rid of them. First thing I want to talk about is actually identifying them. And zebra mussels are very small. They're about the size of your fingernail. They can grow up to about an inch long, but for the ones that I've seen in the lakes here in Kansas, most of them about the size of your fingernail. The average lifespan of it is about 4 to 5 years, and in that time, a female will lay hundreds of thousands of eggs each year. And that's the biggest problem that we're having with these things, is they just multiply so fast that once they get put into a body of water, they just go crazy, and it doesn't take but a half a year, and you can start to see the effects on the lake. I have a picture here. It's kind of blown up to make it look a little bit bigger, but this is a 1-inch scale, so that's kind of what it looks like. Like I said, it kind of looks like a clam, but the problem, one of the problems that we're having with these things is this edge here on the outside of the clam is very sharp, and when these things cling to the rocks or whatever they on the bank, and whatever they can cling to, and you go to swim, you walk on them. If you're not wearing shoes, you're gonna get your feet cut. So not only do they hurt the population of the fish and the birds, but they also are dangerous. I also took another picture of a pop can just to kind of give you an idea the size of them and how they latch onto anything that's in the water. So that's kind of a little illustration there on what it looks like when they're actually attached to something. So that's how to identify them, and you're not going to just see one or two along the bank. If a body of water that you're on has zebra mussels, you're going to see them, because they're going to be by the hundreds of thousands, and they're just going to be all over on the rocks. The second point I'd like to talk about is kind of their lifestyle, if you want to say that. They're considered filter feeders, so zebra mussels feed off the little micro algae microorganisms that are in the bodies of the water. So that's kind of what their food is. And the bad thing about that is it's also what the fish eat. And there's so many of these zebra mussels, so they're eating all the organisms that are in the lakes, and so the fish don't have the food that they need to have. They're in turn, when the fish don't reproduce because they start getting affected by it, then the birds also that eat the fish doesn't have the food that they need. So it's not real common in the United States, because there's a lot of birds and fish out there, but there are areas in the United States that has seen a crisis. Basically, they've seen a reduction in the fish and the birds because of the zebra mussels. The zebra mussels can also carry a disease, any disease. So the biologists have determined that you could eat them, which I don't know why you would, because they're so small, but you can eat them, but since they do carry disease and they get all over the bottom of the lakes and stuff, they don't recommend you eating them. And like I showed you on the picture on the can, the zebra mussel needs a hard surface to cling to. Once it clings to that hard surface, it's just stuck there. I've actually been on lakes and I've seen it, and you got to take a hammer or a screwdriver just to chisel them off a rock, and the rock will be just completely covered with the zebra mussel. So the third point that I'd like to talk about is what can we do to control them and or remove them? Well, so far the only the studies that have been done, ironically, the one thing that they've determined that they've been able to prove kills the zebra mussel is a paint that has copper in it. I don't know why. I read about it, but it just doesn't ever tell me. I can't see or read why it says that. But if it's got copper in it, it will kill the zebra mussels. Well, the only bad thing is you can't go around pouring the paint in the lakes and the streams, because it'll also kill the other species of fish. So that's not going to work. And so far to date, there is nothing that they've been able to find that they can go in and control the zebra mussels and without hurting other species that are in the water. So the best thing that we can do is educate everybody on what they are and what they're doing to our environment and our recreation, because if you find a lake, you're going to see that you can't even use the boat ramps because there's so many zebra mussels all over, and it's such a hard shell that it will cut and ruin the bottom of fiberglass boats. Then, like I said before, it can hurt people when you're trying to walk on them. So we need to educate everybody, and you'll start to see. I've seen it already at most of your state parks. You're going to see a special sign that talks about zebra mussels, and it gives you good instructions on how to make sure that you don't take them if they're in that lake. It's already there, but they want to make sure that you don't take and transport them to another body of water that doesn't have them, because once they're in that water, then that water's ruined too for the most part. So some things that I know that you can do to help prevent that from transferring is just make sure when you pull a boat out of the water that you wash it off, you walk around it, if you inspect it, make sure you don't see any zebra mussels cling to your boat. Same thing with your live wells. If you've thrown fish in there, because they stick to the fish and they'll get in your live well, and you could transfer them through your live well to one lake to another. And your boat trailers, when you back in just to pull a boat in and out, they'll cling to that, and that's just another way. So you have to know what you're looking for and know how to inspect for it and then remove them. So in conclusion, we're talking about zebra mussels, and I've told you about what they are, what they look like, where they live, where they need to live, and why are they an issue here in the United States. And the most important is just educating everybody to let them know what to do to make sure that you don't contribute in the transferring them to another body of water that doesn't have them. So I've actually, and there's a couple websites that I'd like to give you, and I ask you to go to each one of these and just kind of, because it'll teach you a lot about this zebra mussel. One of them's www.nwf.org, and that's a real good one on educating you on what they are. And then the www.mdc.mo.gov is a real good website out of Missouri from the Wildlife and Parks that talks about all the things that you can do to help control the zebra mussel. Thank you.